Welcome to the Founder Hotline. And by now, I should probably already have a little intro music, which I haven't finished. And I can't make any promises. I'll try to do something with it in the next couple of weeks, but no promises there. So, welcome to the Founder Hotline. This podcast is, you could compare it with the voice notes that founder friends would send to each other. And it's basically how this little project started as well. It's me sending voice notes to friends of mine that eventually said, maybe you should start recording voice notes that last 30 minutes. Just make a show of it if you're going to do it anyway. And that's the podcast, basically. My name is Ruben. I'll be your host. And I run a little Belgian company called Commodore, in which I do 2-day interventions. We diagnose a company, we see what's holding them back, what's holding the founder back. And then in 2 days, we make sure that there is a very clear dot on the horizon. And the team knows that's where we're moving towards and how are we going to get there. That's in a nutshell what we do. And boy, has it been a couple of weeks. I've lived and worked a lot. I think the last episode was the week in which I was going to do the first scan event, which happened. So I think that's about 3 weeks ago now, isn't it? So it's a little while ago, and that also shows that as soon as I get busy on delivery, my other things start slipping away. So I forgot a lot of the other stuff that I was supposed to be doing, just because I had a really busy schedule the last few weeks, or at least it felt busy. But let me get started with the scan. So what we did is we had 8 founders, so 8 business owners in a room. We had them there for a half day because this was the first time that we were doing this event. So it was more of a proofing the idea more than it was the actual product already. So you put 8 people in a room, and the idea was, or like the assumption to be checked was, can we create a safe space in which founders do not only share their story, but can be diagnosed on what's in their way. So by doing facilitated exercises, by doing questioning rounds, by doing hot seats, we try to get to the one thing that's holding you back from actually growing as a company. And I started the event, I'm not going to lie, I was pretty stressed because it was the first time that I was going to facilitate several founders. Because usually what we do is we have one company in a facilitation. We have one client sitting with us for 2 days, and we help them to, first of all, get that dot on the horizon to be clear, and then turn it into a plan that a team can align on. So the big difference now was we have 8 different founders from different backgrounds with different phases within the company. So it was a pretty good mixed group. And so my biggest fear, like my biggest stress was, what if we can't align with those people? Not meaning that they should have the exact same issue, but what if they can't understand each other? What if they're so fundamentally different from each other that we can't like make it happen? I think that was the main thing that I wanted to work out within this event. And it went amazingly well. I think after about an hour, I realized that most of the issues that were on the table, so most of the challenges that were on the table, were about alignment. Were about a founder that has a specific story or a specific goal in their head, without having the skills or the tools to include their team on that story. I think that was the main takeaway, or like the main theme for that specific day, really came back to that learning. And we recorded some talking heads at the end of the event, and I watched some of them back, and it really felt as if we got to the point where it got very valuable for these people. So that's for me an assumption that is like verified now. We are going to run this event 2 more times. This year might become 3, but the idea will stay the same. We take a full day instead of a half day, to diagnose a company, to make sure that founders can challenge each other and that they're inside of a room where the only incentive is you need to get challenged. Had to cough there for a little, my excuses. And so the thing is, in a room like that, you don't have people that want to talk to what you like. No one is incentivized to give you a liked feeling. All that you want to do is bring value to these other people. So that also means that you can challenge them ruthlessly without... I'm not gonna say without taking care of the consequences, because of course you don't want to hurt people, but you do have the freedom to challenge people on what they're saying. And I realize as a founder that doesn't happen very often. It's not very often that someone gets the mandate to keep challenging you on what you're saying to get to the actual underlying pain or like the actual underlying truth. So that was pretty special on that event. And if you've been listening for a while now, then you might know that I'm pretty bad at planning generally, which is, and I'm happily supported on planning my stuff. But I've been very wise to plan a flight after this event. So I was supposed to leave the event at about 1 p.m. to then drive to the airport and then get on a flight basically. And as I do, I plan way too strict and I keep forgetting that I've got stuff to do in between closing an event and going to the airport. So most of the rest of the day was spent rushing to the airport, making sure that I got everywhere on time. And I flew to Lisbon, where I was meeting a client. I was supposed to have some days of chilling as well, or vacationing or whatever you want to call it. But for some mysterious reason, I wasn't really able to shut down my brain. I think because it was only such a short notice, I just had to also, process this event that I just had. So there was so many moving parts at the same time that I wasn't really able to shut it all off. So I stayed in Lisbon for a couple more days. I think I stayed until the Wednesday week after. And again, as I am very good with planning, I expected from myself to be as productive as I would be in Belgium. So I expected myself to wake up at 6, to start working at 7, to at least work until 4, and probably then stop working, go to do some sports. But of course, as you are in another country, as you don't really know how it all works, as Lisbon is a very chaotic city. It's a beautiful city, but it's very chaotic as well. So I had some trouble finding my way to the right spots. So this trip ended up being a bit more stressy than I wanted it to be. I did have some very good conversations with founders over there. I had some very good work done with a client that works from Lisbon. Flown back to Belgium the day after, immediately had to do a good session for like a group of entrepreneurs. It was about their focus. And then I was in full prep for the facilitation that I had to do last week. That was a 2-day workshop of a global, so an internationally growing company that really had to align their team on their positioning. And as its alignment, of course, that's right in my wheelhouse. So we had a 2-day workshop basically realigning a team that has grown over the years, has attracted new talent, has started working differently, but really needed alignment on how do we work together, what point are we working towards, and how are we going to get there, and what does that mean for our shared language. And it was a room filled with a lot of passionate people, which makes facilitation great because you have passion at the table. You don't need to bring the passion yourself. But of course also makes it a bit, let's say, challenging because you do need to manage or you do need to facilitate all of that passion in the room. So even though it was a very joyful experience, I am gonna say that it was very tiring as well. leading up to today, so that workshop was about a week ago. Today I had the Bolt House Creative Summit where I did a fireside talk about the zone of genius, a subject that I've talked about on this podcast as well. And it was the first time ever that I did not prepare a single thing before doing a talk on purpose. Because I do know that for talks or for like keynotes, I tend to over prepare, and then I just scratch it all and I do it over again right before I have to go on stage. So I just said, if I'm gonna do that anyway, I'm just gonna skip the first part, skip stressing about it, and I'll just see it when it happens. So for the first time ever, I walked on stage not knowing what I was about to do. And actually it went, I was going to say it went pretty well. That's probably because I'm overly, how do you say it in English? I'm a bit too severe for myself on that one. But it went good. Like, knowing that there was a bunch of creatives in front of me, most of them were either working for a company or freelancers. So less of an entrepreneur. Well, they were entrepreneurial people, but I think in a different phase from what I usually am used to talk to. But we did get a lot of good answers from the room when it comes to how do you spend time in your zone of genius? What are the things that are holding you back from it? So it was a pretty good talk. But all of that side story, just to tell you that the last 3 weeks have been pretty wild. And I feel like this podcast specifically requires me to do some tinkering beforehand and like to get in the right headspace and to know that there's nothing pressing happening afterwards, just to make sure that I can pull all of my energy and all of myself in this podcast. So instead of trying to postpone it even further, I thought, let's just do it today. I've got some good ideas and some good stories, I think, lined up in the back of my head that I wanted to get out as well. And I think for me specifically, that's what this podcast is about mainly, is having my thoughts out in the open on the stuff that I've been working on and the stuff that I've been doing, what challenges me and what brings me joy nowadays. So yeah, let's start sharing. I think May also marks the start of a new, let's say, a hard season. So if you've not yet listened to a lot of these episodes, then this may be new to you, which is why I'm going to explain it fully. I like to balance my life in a way that sounds more like contrast. So what I think of when people talk about balance, I think of a metronome, which is like the musical thing that gives you the beat. It gives you the like pinging to give you the rhythm for specific music. And when people talk about balance, I think about this metronome going pretty fast, right? It always wants to get back to the middle, to like the 0.0, and then it goes left and right from that middle, a bit like this. So you go left and right again. And if you want balance, you want to go towards that 0.0, right? You need to be in that middle, which means to me, if I want to have a balanced life, I feel pretty stressed all the time because I need to get back to my balance point. And for me specifically, that means when do I do the not so difficult stuff? For example, when do I go for a drink with friends? Or when do I take a day off of going to the gym? Or which days is it fine to just say, I'm not really feeling like it today. I'm just going to take a day off and energize a bit. And for me to find a balance in there, for me to make those decisions in the right pace and in the right moment is pretty challenging, because either I'll be doing too much of the heavy stuff or too little. So it's always a little battle with myself of doing, or it always feels like a battle of doing the right thing. Of course, without judging on what right looks like or what good looks like, right? So instead of trying to balance or to find that balance within that specific stressy middle, I've just decided to make my swings from controlled to uncontrolled, or from doing the tough stuff and doing the easy stuff, to make those swings a bit bigger. So instead of trying to constantly move towards that point zero, towards that middle point, I just decided to spend some more time on either side. So if you're watching YouTube, by the way, now you can see a little drawing that I made. I'm not very good at drawing, by the way, but I do try. So on the top, there is the metronome that moves very fast and that goes from left to right and left to right. That is constantly in stress. And then on the bottom, I've done the other way around, which is just you spend more time on each side of the balance, which is what I like to call contrast. So instead of figuring out each week, is this a good moment to go to the bar or to go and have a drink, I just make the decision beforehand. So instead of having to make difficult decisions constantly, I just make them beforehand. I just say, this season, this is what's going to be my focal point. These are the difficult things that I'm going to decide upon now. And then in X time, I cannot do them anymore. I don't think I ever really had issues with, for example, alcohol, but I do know that it's bad for me. Like in general, for people with ADHD, alcohol hits even harder. It ruins my sleep, and sleep is like the pinnacle of everything that you do when you have ADHD. So I know that alcohol is pretty bad. However, for me specifically, social gatherings with a lot of people and a lot of noise are more enjoyable after having had a drink. I think because it helps me block out some signals, I guess, which is also probably why people do get addicted to alcohol, but I'm not gonna get into that specific space. So when I've had a drink, I find it easier to be in social gatherings and stuff like that. So then it would become a battle each time to figure out, is this then the right time to have a drink? Now I just say, I'm not going to do it. I've decided this for this specific period of time. I'm not going to have an alcoholic drink, which means that I'll probably be more secure, or I'll make more balanced decisions on what I'm going to spend my time on then, instead of just doing the easy stuff, which would be, I'm going to go for a drink because that's an easy move. So how I structure this, or how I'm structuring this as I go, is I've divided the year into 3 main seasons, let's call it, or 3 main phases. And so from January until March, until the end of March, I had season 1, which is the first hard season, which is then 3 months of me doing the difficult stuff. And I'll get into the difficult stuff in a little while, or in a moment. And then the month of April for me was what I've in the meantime named Lifestyle Month, being this is the month in which you don't have to make the difficult decisions. Now you can do all of the less wise stuff. If you wake up in the morning and you feel a little less energized, it's fine to clear more of your schedule and make time for other stuff that you usually wouldn't make the time for. Or if you wake up in the weekend and you don't feel very well rested, it's fine. Lay in your bed for another hour. Or if you want to go to, let's just say, go to a fast food place and have not the best nourishing meal, please do go ahead, enjoy it. That's what Lifestyle Month specifically is for. So instead of constantly having to figure out, is once a week for eating Belgian fries, is that enough or too much? Instead of doing that, it's just 3 months of absolutely nothing, and then 1 month of go batshit crazy. So that's the idea of the contrast thing, and I like to combine it with the lifestyle part, so sports and sleep, nourishment, stuff like that, but also on the business side. I like to challenge myself to do something new or to try out something that I wouldn't have done before, or to create new habits in that period of time. And that's a bit where the 75 Hard idea comes in. So the idea behind 75 Hard is pretty simple. You have 75 days of doing hard stuff, doing difficult stuff. I'm just gonna write the list on paper so that I don't remember or that I don't forget all of the different parts. But it starts with you have to follow a specific diet. The diet is not decided for you. You can decide what diet you want to follow, but you have to follow some sort of a food diet. That doesn't mean you have to eat less calories. For example, right now I'm doing a bulk, so I'm eating way more than I usually would, but I have to stick to it on a daily basis and I have to be very mindful about it. So the food part is like the first thing. Secondly, you have to do 2 workouts per day. Each workout has to be at least 45 minutes, and at least one of those workouts has to be outside. So 2 times 45 minutes of doing sports. That may sound like a lot. It is a lot. And that's the whole point of 75 Hard. It has to be difficult. If it's easy, don't bother doing it. If it feels easy, make it harder. It's about training your brain to do some difficult stuff as well. So 2 times 45 minutes of sports. For me specifically, that means I go for a walk for at least 45 minutes. It's usually more, like I take most of my meetings while walking. So I would probably walk about 2 hours per day. That's one. And then the other one could be either running or going to the gym or sitting on a bike, that stuff. So at least twice a day I'm moving, and at least one of those 2 moments has to be outside. The other one, or the next part of the challenge, is you have to read at least 10 pages of a non-fictional book per day. And this to me was a pretty big one as well, because I'm a good reader and I love reading and I love what reading does to my brain. But if I'm not forced to finish a book, or if I'm not forced to read something the next day again, then probably the habit is not going to stick. And now looking back at my previous 75 Hard, I do realize that I think I read 5 books during that time. All of those 5 books I have fully integrated inside of my business, because I know I'm going to be forced to read this book. And that's a little thing that I do for myself as well. If I don't like the book, then I'm going to throw it away. And then basically the first pages were a waste of time. So I'm pretty mindful about the books that I want to be reading. So from the 5 books that I read, those were non-fictional. All of the stuff that was in there, or at least the stuff that was useful, I integrated inside of the business. So that's a very important one for me as well. I think you can read all of the books, you can watch all of the movies, you can take all of the classes. If you don't integrate it into your life or into your business, then it's been entertainment, and you should also just see it as entertainment then. So then if it's entertainment, it doesn't have to be too heavy. Anyway, so 10 pages in a non-fictional book. And then you have to, I think it's 1 gallon of water. I just translated it into you have to drink 3 liters of water per day, which actually has been a pretty amazing game changer to me. I realized that I do not drink enough water on daily, but by doing this challenge, I drink so much water, and it's so damn good for me, for real. And then I think this is the last one, is you have to take a progress picture per day. I think, to be honest, the progress photo probably is, if you're doing this challenge to like lose weight or to gain weight when you're doing sports. So for me, that one is not, that is not as important, or like that doesn't carry all of the weight for me. But I do think it's a nice habit to also work in to your 75 Hard. I'm just going to look up if there's any other things. So yeah, follow a diet, 2 times 45 minutes, 1 gallon of water, 10 pages of a non-fictional book, and a daily progress photo. Oh yeah, and then I think that the hardest or the heaviest rule, if you fail anything, you got to start over. So that means if you fail any of those rules, you got to start over. I made my own little version of this 75 hard, and I'll also tell you why. It's what I like to call overcompensate to compensate, which means instead of changing one thing when you want to change something about your life, change a lot and see what sticks. If, for example, you would want to lose weight, instead of just going to the gym once a week, do it all. Buy 2 pairs of running shoes or sporting shoes, buy the full outfit, go crazy, go 7 days a week, be hell-bent on doing an amazing job, overcompensate. And the idea of overcompensating is you don't take a little effort to make a big change. If you want to have a big change, you gotta make big changes as well. If you want to get somewhere, if you want to grow, you gotta make some compromises. And that's why it's called a 75 hard. And that's also why I like doing the contrast thing. Because I feel, for myself personally, I know that I have a habit of negotiating with myself. And negotiating with myself usually leads to taking the easy route, or like doing the easy stuff, which is sometimes fine. But if you're always going to go for the easy way, then you're never really going to grow. Like, growth comes from friction, I believe, but also comes from trying out new stuff. And if you would have ever read I think it's called Atomic Habits, the book, you know that, or you would see that habits don't come easy. Like, habits really need a specific space and place in your life for them to stick there as well. And I think doing a 75 hard and doing this seasonal contrast thing, for me, also teaches my brain to incorporate difficult stuff. All change is difficult, but if you've made the decisions beforehand, there is no more negotiating. And I think it's the negotiating that makes it heavy. Because you keep negotiating with, should I do it today? Yes or no? Am I gonna take the easy way out? Yes or no? You don't. It's that easy. You're just gonna do whatever you've decided beforehand. So for me, this is 3 months of doing those specific things. And what I like to do, for me, the food, the sports, the non-fictional book, the water, and the photo, for me, that's the basic, like that's the starting point. And then each time in which I have these 3 months, I want to incorporate something new. I want to try something on top of the challenge that I already have. For example, what's new for me in this one is, first of all, instead of just doing a diet, I'm going to completely do 2 blocks of specific training. Like, my first training block is going to be a bulk. So for the first time in my life, my goal of going to the gym will actually get bigger. And then for the second part, I'm going to do the biggest cut that I've ever done. If you don't know what a bulk and a cut is, in a bulk, you eat more than you should to get more muscle tissue. And then in a cut, you would do the exact opposite. You would eat less than you're supposed to lose body fat, basically. It's the first time that I'm ever going to do it. And I just want to see what it does to me. So what moment better to pick than my difficult season, right? Another thing that I'm adding to the list is, or that I've added to the list because I'm already doing it, is a paper or an e-ink phone. So I've already talked about a retreat that I did a couple of months ago, and during this retreat, no devices were allowed. So you basically, your way of communicating was only with other people. You couldn't show them videos of your ideas, etc. But also there was no connection to social media or to music on a device. And I noticed that my brain really liked not having a phone, because it was like a rule. There was not going to be one. Whereas now I do feel that in daily life, I find it hard to put my phone away and to leave it there. My brain is trained to pick up my phone constantly. So for this 75 Hard, what I want to experiment with is an e-ink phone, which is basically an e-reader that you can call with. So it's a very slow device. It's very icky. It doesn't work fast. It doesn't look interesting. It's not cool at all. It doesn't even work well. It just has to do the bare minimum. So what I'm gonna do is my during the day phone, which has LinkedIn and Instagram and all of those apps on it. It's just gonna stay at the office, and then my evening phone is going to come with me, and that's going to be the e-ink phone, just to lower my screen time. There is nothing challenging, or there's nothing within the normal 75 hard challenge about this, but I really want to try it because I want to see what impact it has on my emotional being, like on my stress levels as well. I do think that mobile devices and screens in general have a very big impact on on the way you feel and on your stress level. So that's another one that I'm adding. And I thought there was another one. Oh yeah. Yeah, I noticed that in my previous 75 hard, I wasn't very strict with my ending time. What do I mean with ending time is I have a pretty strict schedule on my waking up and my going to work. I think I even said it a few minutes back. So I wake up each morning at 6 in the morning, regardless the day, so in the weekends as well. And I like to be at the office or at my desk at 7 in the morning. So that means that I have a full hour to get dressed, to get breakfast, to drink a coffee, have a little sip of water, and move to the office, or if I'm working from home, move to my desk. And to get working at 7 sharp. I've always been pretty strict with that one. Like, it doesn't happen often that I'm late for it, or that I skip my starting time. But I am not very strict with my ending time. So I would start at 7 in the morning. I would have 2 hours of just very focused time before the world wakes up, basically. And then I would stop at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. meaning as soon as 4 p.m. hits, I have an alarm clock going off, and that means you gotta stop working, move to the gym. And I noticed that in my previous 75 hard, I wasn't very strict with it. I just said, I've got some more work to do. I'm just gonna finish this task. And before I knew it, it was 5 p.m. and then it was 5:30, and then I left at 6 p.m. And all that it did was just delay the rest of my day. So it would basically start fucking with my bedtime as well. Because I'm not gonna say that I have a busy schedule in the evening, but I do need some landing time. Like, I can't expect myself to eat at 8 p.m. and then be able to go to bed at 10 p.m. That's not very beneficial for your sleep. So this challenge, I really want to be strict with my ending time, meaning 4 p.m. means I stop whatever I'm doing and I pick it up again the day after. And yes, it's gonna cost me in focus switching. I'm sure it will, but I do think that being very strict with my own time and being stricter with time in general is going to help me. It's going to help me get better as well, and going to help me in that contrast thing. Because I also do feel that there's a finite amount of working time that you have during the day. And I don't really believe in trying to outwork everyone and trying to hustle all day, every day. I don't think it's I don't think it's sustainable. And I don't think that it's very healthy to be constantly working all day, every day. Because in the end, life is to have fun as well. And mostly as an entrepreneur, it's very hard to shut down. So that's why I gave myself a very hard stop at 4 p.m. to not work after. So that's one of the things that I'm gonna introduce as well. And I think I explained pretty clear on the why behind this all, but it's for me to not only to do more difficult stuff and to grow from that, but also to notice when I'm trying to do the easy stuff. Because I think our brain I'm not going to say it tricks us that much. I do think our brain likes to trick us, but our brain likes to pull us towards doing sometimes the easy stuff. Like imagine it's been a rough day, you were supposed to go to the gym, but you're feeling a bit tired and like, I think I'm not gonna go today. What you're telling yourself is it's fine to give up. It's fine to be easy on yourself. And it is at times. At times it really is good to be easy on yourself. I just figured out that if I learn to do more difficult stuff, I'll probably also figure out more easily when I can be easier on myself. For example, during my last 75 hard, I got ill pretty severely, and I decided that doing the difficult stuff then was not going to the gym. I was supposed to go to the gym for my workout, and I was literally arguing and negotiating with myself. Is this a smart move? Is this the 75 hard move? The 75 hard move back then was, instead of doing a heavy training and feeling like I trained, was just going for a walk and doing like being easier on myself in that matter. So it's teaching me to do more difficult stuff. It's teaching me new habits as well. Like for me, what's most, or at least what's been most interesting after having done, I think about 5 or 6, maybe 75 hards already, is each time I introduce a new habit, and then after a period of time, I can just see which habits stick, like which things automatically find a new pathway in my brain to stay inside of my life. So these contrasting periods also allow me to make big changes in my life that I aspire, just from like a challenging perspective. So that's why I'm doing this 75 hard thing, and that's why I'm also challenging myself in doing difficult stuff. So it's to make sure that I stick with specific habits, and it's also to make sure that I don't have to make difficult decisions every day. I've made them beforehand. Each new season just means from now on, this is decided for you. There is no negotiating. Our yesterday version has decided on this one. Our today version just has to execute. No need to second guess our plan. There's enough second guessing already. Just fucking execute. And then after 3 months, there's 1 month of lifestyle. There's basically 1 month of doing whatever the hell you want. If you want to go to the club every weekend, if you want to sit in the sun and have a glass of rosé each and every Friday or each and every weekday even, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you want to, you can. And that's what's so nice about it, because you have this period of doing difficult things, but then afterwards there's a lot of reward. And the biggest reward about it is you don't have to feel silly about it. You don't have to feel guilty about it, because you know that next season you're going to do the difficult stuff again. And I think that for me is the most reassuring part. I know that I'm never going to be in the extreme version of my freaky sports brain, or in the extreme version of my taking it easy brain. No, I'm always going to get back to a certain level of balance due to the fact that I have this contrasting seasonal thing. And that's the main idea that I just wanted to bring over today. Sometimes it's good to challenge yourself into doing difficult stuff and to overcompensate and see what sticks and what stays with you. So my invite for you, if I would have to close on anything, would be to challenge yourself every now and then, and maybe even invite another person to do this challenge with you. I always make sure that I have at least one co-conspirator when I do these 75 hearts, because then you have a partner in crime to do the difficult stuff with you, and also to challenge you on your fucking bullshit if you're ready to give up. That's an important one as well. So yeah, do more difficult stuff, and please do let me know if you want to join the next 75 Hard, I mean, we're 5 days in, but you can still join. And also, let me know if you've already done difficult stuff. I wanna talk about doing difficult, hard things. So let me know what difficult challenge you're gonna give yourself. Talk to you in a bit. Goodbye.